Mr. Eighth Place. All right, guys, welcome back to the Pulse of Willie and Al. How's it going today, bro?
Not too bad. Willie, how about you, man? How
You
about
know
you?
what? I am doing great, man. I didn't finish in eighth place, so I
Yeah.
I'm doing great.
I finished in first place, so
Yeah,
I feel pretty good.
I mean that's going to be a good start to your week,
Yeah.
right? You walk up a
Hey,
little straighter
real,
in your chair, all of that, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
real quick. Where did your Uncle Roger finish? Because I
Oh,
knew he finished behind me in the Guillotine League.
well, he did finish behind, and when you say behind, he was almost the caboose, right?
Yeah,
He was the
yeah,
second team eliminated, to which he says things are going to change next year, but he should be delivering his fantasy football guide or book at some point during the offseason. So you'll have to check that
yeah.
out.
Well, I think if he thinks things are going to change next year, it's because he's probably going to be the first one eliminated. So if you want to count that as change, then you know what? Good for him.
You know
Good
what's
for
kind of
him.
messed up about the fantasy rankings? So like him and I ended up playing in the playoffs because we were in the semifinals. We both
Mhm.
lost, so we ended up we didn't make the semis. We were in the first round of the playoffs. We lost, so we go to the losers bracket and competed for fifth and sixth. But they did it 2 weeks in a row. So ESPN idiots for doing it that way. Because what ended up happening was I absolutely crushed him by 50 points the first week. And the
Yep.
second week, he ends up winning by like 6 or 7 points and ends up
Yeah.
getting fifth place because of that. So technically, he finished ahead of me, even though we split during the season. So
Yeah.
stupid. So, yeah, it is what it is. So his Yankees are going
Yeah.
to suck this year. So,
They are, yeah,
nice.
and I think we should probably tell him that he can't draft guys like I know he's older, so he's gonna want to draft guys like Roger Staubach and like we gotta just tell him like, hey man, you gotta draft like current quarterbacks. I don't know
Yeah.
if he understands that, but
Maybe
you
he's
know,
doing a new thing this year where he's going to draft head coaches, and we need to remind him which ones are still playing. But
yeah, yeah,
we'll get into that in a second. We'll let you know, Uncle
mm,
Raj. We got you here. So
yeah,
today we are bringing you guys episode 68, our cutting dead weight episode, in which we get to discuss some NFL teams that have decided to cut some dead weight at the coaching position. So. Let's go ahead and start. Like big news in terms of coaches getting fired. Doug Peterson's gone, which
I'm shocked it took this long,
well,
to
they
be
said,
honest with
hey,
you.
listen, it's 3 years in his system, and the third year was not good for
No,
Trevor Lawrence and not good for him either. And Mac Jones still looks like basically Mac Jones, playing better, but still looks like Mac Jones. So,
yeah,
um, interesting. So he's gone. I think it is. I don't think Jacksonville's a bad destination for a head coach, and I'm kind of interested to see. But at some point, you've got to think like Trevor Lawrence is still on the younger side of 30.
yeah,
Uh, at some point, that window's going to start closing where you're like, all right, he like if they don't start getting good soon, what is going to happen? Now they've got a great stud there in Brian Thomas, who played amazing this year. I know he helped you to a fantasy championship.
sure did.
But
Yep,
and he was just incredible to honestly watch in terms of football this year. He was great. But they definitely have a lot of other pieces that they need to add to that team for them to be competitive there. So,
right.
uh, who any head
Well,
coaches out there you'd like to see there?
honestly, you said that it's a decent coaching destination. I'm going to disagree because they didn't get rid of the GM. Like Trent
Yeah.
Baalke's, I think, a big reason why they're not good. And the fact that they retained him, which I think means like, I think it's going to be harder for them to find a decent coach.
Or that he's going to want some control over it. And yeah, I guess that is. I was thinking more of the player landscape.
Yeah.
But you're right. The GM definitely is something that's going to matter there. And I mean, when you're making signings like Gabe Davis instead of bringing back Calvin Ridley,
Yeah.
that's a rough one. So yeah, we'll see. I wouldn't mind seeing maybe Pete Carroll dip his toes in there and see what could happen. I feel like he could have some good years there, but I don't know. We'll see. We should find out within the next few weeks. And to be honest, some of these guys that are up there, Aaron Glenn, I'm sure is probably a guy that's going to be interviewed by people. There's already
Oh yeah.
rumors of him. There's rumors of O'Connell, like them reaching out to Owasu at Minnesota, asking him for trade destinations for Kevin O'Connell to see if maybe they'd be interested in trading him as a head coach, which I think is hilarious. But
Kevin O'Connell came out yesterday and said he doesn't want that. Like
yeah,
he's like, I want to stay here.
yeah,
So like, good for him.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's great, and I like what he's done there. I like the guys that he has around them, and what he's built in that locker room. I think he has a lot of appreciation for that. Another coach that may be on the move. It's always funny to hear this, like, but not before this year. Had you heard about coaches being traded for, other than maybe the last time it was what Bill Belichick, right?
Yeah.
But now, Sean Payton too, right? They traded the rights to Sean Payton. I think Denver did.
Oh yeah, they
Yep.
did. Yeah, you're right.
Which I guess that kind of flew under the radar a bit, but you've heard now about Mike McCarthy possibly wanting to, be in talks because after this, his contract's going to be up, and Jerry Jones, I don't know, he just seems like a flaming idiot sometimes. He really
Yeah.
does. Like he came out and was talking all like they said about Cooper Rush and his contract. Like he missed out on a lot of money and incentives, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we don't really know that. You know who does know about that is the agent." It's like Jerry, you mean to tell me as a
Yeah.
multimillionaire you're not, or I mean, what is he, a billionaire?
Billionaire.
Yeah. You don't know where your money's going. You don't know how these guys are getting paid, and the all of the fine print details. Come on, man. Like
Yeah.
it was kind
Yeah,
of
I
crazy.
call bullshit on
Yeah,
that.
it was a bad look, man. A bad look.
Yeah.
So what the Dallas Cowboys need is for him to get traded out of there. So
Well, there's rumors like Chicago's asked, well, I guess Chicago asked Dallas for permission to interview Mike McCarthy.
yeah, I saw
And
that.
you're like, that's the most Bears move ever.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, right?
Way to ruin that. If you want to ruin another quarterback, cool, great.
Yeah, let's
Hire
do
Mike
it.
McCarthy.
Yeah, let's do it. I saved this one for last. I mean, there was some coordinators that got released, but we'll touch on those in a second. But Gerard Mayo gone after 1 year. What are your thoughts on this?
So
And
I watched them.
okay, can we remove this last week before you answer that question?
Sure,
Because
absolutely.
I want a before and after from you on this.
Yeah, I would love. So I am a fan of the Patriots in a way that, like, every Sunday, I'm pretty much watching. Um, and this season was really frustrating to watch. We didn't have a lot of talent, and we knew that going in. Like, we knew this was going to be a rough year for us record wise.
Mm-hmm.
And I can forgive a lot of things. What I can't forgive is this guy spent so much time under Belichick and couldn't learn basic time management skills. Like, I just like every game he just made he made these decisions that you were just like, what the fuck are we doing? And this next part that I'm gonna bitch about is a lot more that falls on the offensive coordinator, but it falls on Mayo too, where for 3 quarters they're making Drake May throw these dumb bubble screens and like staying in the pocket. And then they're down 20 in the fourth quarter, and they're like, oh, wait, this guy's got a cannon for an arm, and he can use his legs. And then they use him the correct way. It was goddamn maddening to watch every week.
Mm-hmm.
Every week I watched this. For 18 weeks, I watched this, and Jesus,
And
was it just like.
And then you
God
threw in
damn
your
it.
backup quarterback. Am I wrong?
And then the one game that we had to, well, first of all, he doesn't even start Drake May for the year, which I was somebody, I'll be honest, I was somebody at the beginning of the year that's like, I don't want Drake May to see the field at all.
Yeah.
I want him to get a year under his belt, but they had other plans. And then like they had this weird quarterback competition where Gerard Mayo was like, it's not about who's better. And you're like, okay, that's usually how quarterback competitions work. But who am I to say? And then when he finally starts Drake May, the reason he gives is because Drake May's been playing better. And you're like, it was just maddening. And for him, for that organization which is so poorly run right now. There's no like I know Buffalo is trotting out second and third stringers, but like we should have done the same. We should have run the ball every time up the middle, and that's that. Joe Milton looked like an all pro,
Yeah, he did.
which
He
is
did.
cool because he actually looked good in the preseason this year.
Yeah, he
So
did.
like,
He did, man.
and there was a minute where people were like, Joe Milton, and you're like, sit down. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So, yeah, what I will say is what they did to Mayo is unfair. He was put in a situation that like he was doomed to fail. And that's not fair to him because they talked about for a while he was the successor. Like this
Yes.
had been in place for years.
Hmm.
And like so they give him a roster that's just absolute dog shit. It's Drake May, who put up some pretty good stats for a guy that like didn't really have receivers, an offensive line.
Or start the
Um,
season.
yeah. And so like you gotta kind of give him credit for that, but like I just like his poor game management skills. And like the locker room was kind of like this weird thing where like dudes were saying some shit that you were like, all right, like kind of got to get control of the locker room, dude. And he just like he didn't have it. And the fact that they fired him like 90 minutes after the game and already had a prepared statement tells me that like they did him dirty.
Yeah, I felt the same way, man. And not to mention like okay, so I've never been a Patriots fan. And it as I'm not going to say I enjoy you going through this because that's not the right thing, but it gives me a certain amount of joy because you get to experience what other teams in the NFL go through, right?
Yeah.
And that's not a fun thing, right? That type of dysfunction. But honestly saw this a few years ago, man, when they didn't re-sign. this is just laughable to me. But Jacoby Myers, when they let him go, I don't know if you saw the stats on Myers this year.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
he was arguably one of the best receivers in the league, and I know
Yeah.
not stat wise in terms of touchdowns and stuff like that, but anything thrown to him, he caught. I think he had like a 0% drop rate this year,
Yeah. No, I'm aware.
which is
Yeah.
insane. And this is a guy that really showed a lot of promise when he was with the Patriots. And guys didn't re-sign him, but then you went after Kendrick Bourne and brought in these other guys, Nelson Aguilar at the time, and it just
Well,
I don't know, it just didn't seem to work out.
we traded back with the Charger. We traded back so the Chargers could move up,
And
and
get
we took
McConkey.
two receivers. And I'm going to give you a stat.
Yeah.
Their combined receiving yards this year, 87.
With Polk and who else?
I don't even know the other guy because he never played.
Yeah.
87 receiving yards
Where
combined.
Lad McConkey probably had 87 receptions this year.
He had Lad McConkey, the game that he played against us, he had 90 receiving yards. 90.
More than both of those guys the whole season. Not to
Sure.
mention,
Yeah.
he looks like an NFL player too.
Dude's a stud.
He
Yeah.
is. He is. Yeah, I felt bad for Mayo, man. Same thing. He was made to seem like, okay, this is a process thing, and he was given very little rope, and then they decided, like, okay, we've had enough. Let's burn it all down. And I
Yeah.
just don't think that's fair. Like, okay, the time management thing, okay, but first year head coaches are going to make mistakes. I don't put all of it on him. He had an honestly very talent inept locker room. Like
But
they just
also,
don't have a lot of talent on that team, man. Like Christian Barmore wasn't there for the majority of the year. Yeah, Christian
yeah.
Gonzalez, like he was there, but like, and he was excellent this year. Don't get me wrong, but like they just don't have a ton of talent on offense. Like, tell me who the playmaker is. There one guy on offense that you're like, okay, we're worried about this guy. We got to stop
Yeah.
this guy.
Well, too, he'd only been really a coordinator of like one season.
Yeah.
And like the thing that I keep going back to is like if you knew there was a succession plan in place, why wasn't he learning more from Belichick about how to coach a team?
Yeah, man, and this is the thing you see. No offense, but a lot of the guys in the Belichick tree, when besides for a guy
Suck.
like Vrabel, right? They just
Yeah,
when they go elsewhere on their own, man, they have to manage all of the responsibility, and that kind of just shows what a great coach he was to be able to handle all of those things. You know, not
yeah,
all of them were able to do it, and I mean, you could go through a long list of guys like that. It just it's not. I don't know. I don't know, man.
yeah.
So who would you like to see them bring in? I mean, we already.
I've got to imagine they're going to bring in Vrabel. Like,
Yeah. I don't know. He's very intimidating
respectfully,
in interviews.
what's that?
He's very intimidating in interviews, they say.
Yeah, and like I was listening to, I think it was Bill Simmons yesterday, and like he took like the Jets were talking to him, and I will bet any amount of money he did that to be like, hey guys,
Don't think I won't
I'm
do
gonna go
it.
sign with the Jets. Like, you don't want this, and like
I
I
man,
yeah,
I'll tell you, if Rex Ryan goes to the Jets, I would love that.
that's the most Jets move ever, and
It
God, I hope so.
it is, and listen, but I'm a Rex fan. I wasn't in the past, but I'm definitely a Rex fan, man. Like that guy knows football. He really does. And yeah,
Yeah.
people don't like the decisions he makes. People don't like that he has that foot fetish. They don't like all of that stuff. He's loud. He's proud. All of that stuff. They don't like that stuff. But
Hey, Rex Ryan is a soul man. All right,
yeah, he
all right,
is.
he
He
can
is.
be.
And I'll tell you, the thing that I love about Rex is that one thing he's very good at is putting together a good defense. And the Jets just so happen to have a very good defense. I think it would be perfect for him to be there. And the quote that I love the most was he would make sure he ends that country club for Rodgers. And that just made me giggle, man. Like, he is even hearing him talk and like break down the games on ESPN. It's hysterical hearing this guy,
Yeah,
man. Like it really is. He's not afraid to call stuff out that he sees. Yeah, it sounds crazy sometimes, but like he calls it as he sees it, right? I love
yeah,
that. Um,
yeah.
yeah, and that whole NFC East is going to be very. I'm sorry, AFC East is going to be very interesting, and I don't want to get into Tyreek Hill stuff because I don't want to give that any light, but very interesting that stuff going on too. So,
Yeah.
um, but moving on, we've got Gus Bradley gets fired as defensive coordinator for the Colts. Thank God, and not because of Gus Bradley, just because I think that division that organization needs a reworking to it. We talked about it a little bit last week. A lot of
Yeah.
dysfunction there, and you know I hope that it can get back to being an organization that Colts fans that are like especially prominent Colts fans, but all Colts fans can be proud of. I really hope so.
Did I think I sent you the clip the other day. Yeah, I sent you the clip of Jim Irsay when he's
Yeah.
like, "Hey, we're the fourth most winningest team since 2000, and we're in the the upper quartile." And I was like, "This is incredible.
Yeah.
This is
But what does that
goddamn
even
it."
mean? Like, okay, so I won the spelling bee in first grade. What have you done lately, dude? And in this league, that's what matters, dude. If Tom Brady comes
Yeah,
back, no one's going to be like 7-time Super Bowl champion. When's the last time he won it? 5 years ago?
yeah,
You're not relevant anymore. And no offense to Tom, he is right. Like the winningest of all of them. But it's a what have you done for me lately type deal, and that's what matters, man. So
yeah.
the Bengals, they go and fire their defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, which it was
It had to happen.
6 years that he'd been there. And this is the thing that they started playing, and kudos to the Bengals, man. Like they didn't give up, but they didn't do enough earlier to be able to put themselves in the right position to succeed. And having to hope that Denver is going to get beat by the third stringers of Kansas City is just not a good way to go about it. Miami, I knew they were gonna mess it up. I knew they were. But the Bengals, they fire him. I think he was there 6 years with them. Trey
Yeah,
Hendrickson is just a gem, dude. Like he ended up with what 3.5 sacks in the last game
yeah,
there. Just an absolute stud. They need to add some serious talent on defense, and they need to figure out a way to keep Higgins and Chase together. I really
well,
hope they do.
you know what the Bengals reminded me a lot of this year? Do you remember that Chargers team? I think it was the 2010 team that led the league in offense
And
and
didn't make
defense.
yeah,
Well, it's wild that they had their quarterback led the league in passing.
yep,
They had a wide receiver that won the Triple Crown.
yep,
They had a D lineman lead the league in sacks,
yeah,
and they missed the playoffs.
yeah, yep. That's not a fun thing. Not
No,
fun at all.
that's hard to do.
It
Like,
really is, man. It really is.
yeah,
And I mean, the thing is, you don't want to waste seasons like that. I mean, Chase was spectacular this year. Burrow was spectacular this year, but he did throw 9 picks. I mean, that was up against 45 plus touchdowns, right? But
yeah,
uh I mean, the defense just needed to be able to stop someone. And even in those big games when you're thinking about with Baltimore and Pittsburgh going back and forth, they'd have a crazy big play where it's like an 80-yard touchdown to Chase, and then the defense gives up an 80-yard touchdown run. And it's like,
yeah.
oh man, like we got to figure this out. So hopefully they're able to get in a good defensive coordinator and someone that can really rally those guys and like highlight Trey Hendrickson, um,
Yeah.
and get that figured out. But anything else you wanted to mention about that before we jump into these games here?
Yeah, real quick, 49ers fired their special teams coordinator, Brent Schneider. 49ers were bad on special teams this year. Like, they were not good.
I will say that
Jake Moody missed a bunch of kicks.
Yeah, I mean, part
Like,
of that was him being injured and stuff, and kind of
sure.
losing a bit on that. Which I love the scene. I don't know if you saw that with Kittle, kind of telling him like, "I believe in you" and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
really cool. I love Kittle, man. He does things all the time that make you just be like, man, he's an awesome guy. Like, he
Yeah.
really is. But I just am willing to say, like, okay, special teams may have been awful this year for them, but that wasn't the reason they sucked this year. Um,
No.
they
Yeah,
had a
they sucked for a
lot of
lot of
issues
reasons.
going all the way back into July.
Yeah.
So
And
and
now they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy as well. So, like,
yeah, and now he's stuck with Ayuk. So hopefully Ayuk is that dude, because if he's not, we'll
yeah.
see. We'll see, man. Oh boy. So first game that we got, uh
Yeah.
Chargers take off and they go to Houston, which I kind of loved what Rex said about this. He's like, "Oh, I didn't realize the Chargers had a bye the first week." So, but what are some
Woof.
what are some big things you're looking forward to in this game?
Uh, to be honest with you, for as good as Houston's D line is, this is really going to be this is going to be kind of the immovable force against the immovable object, where it's the Chargers really like to run the ball down people's throats,
Hmm.
and Houston's defensive line is no joke. Like, Will Anderson will blow up everything.
Yep.
Like, I'm really excited to watch a Will Anderson go up against Joe Alt and see who wins that.
Or Rashawn Slater. I
Yeah,
mean,
because
yeah, it's
those are some big boys. They're gonna go at it, and like, they're very good respectively on their own. So, like, the fact that somebody's gonna have to win that battle, I'm really excited to watch that.
yeah. I don't
Houston
know.
does not inspire confidence with me though. They
No,
don't.
no, I'm kind of worried about them too. I don't know if many people have seen 300 plus pound guys with feet like typewriters, but that's what Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater resemble.
Yeah.
Their footwork is incredible. They're very very good at what they do. This offensive line's good, and I feel like Harbaugh is going to have these guys ready to go.
Oh yeah.
That's the way they've won all year, man. They play good defense and they run the ball, and it's given Herbert confidence to be able to step up and make plays when he needs to.
What
Um,
worries me with the Chargers a little bit is, like, they don't, for all the things that they do well, they don't typically score a lot of points,
right.
and that does worry me a little bit.
Hmm.
Like, they can win the rock fight, but like, if Houston kind of gets out to like a 14-0 lead early, I don't know if Los Angeles can. I don't know if they can kind of put up the points like that to match them. I really don't.
Well, and that's going to be the key, right? To see what
Yeah.
they're able to do with that. Yeah, it's like I said, that's one of the benefits of playing really good defense. And we could talk all we want about this game and all these games for that matter, but the big thing is you've got 17 weeks of film. You've got
Mhm.
one game plan specifically designed to shut down this team's best players. And if I'm the Chargers, I'm throwing Derwin James right up on the line there. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
him. I want him hitting people hard, dude, and like that's what makes him a great player. It just, I mean, if you could take Nico Collins out of this,
Who are they going to throw to?
that's
Yeah.
my thing, dude. Like I really
Yeah.
don't think Houston has the. I just don't think they've got the Wolves to be able to carry this game on
I
offense.
think they're too banged up at receiver and like, yeah, I like no offense to Dalton Schultz, but like,
The Bills coming
dude,
due, man. It's coming
yeah,
due, and
yeah,
and that's the hard part of it. Houston's defense is great if they're able to. Yeah, I mean, it's not like the Chargers have it easy. They don't. I mean, this defense is legit with Houston, and come playoff time, you have to believe guys like Stingley. They're gonna Will Anderson, right? Like these guys are they're good, really good.
yeah. I
So
really think this is going to be a low scoring game.
I
I
think so
really do.
too.
The thing I will say with Houston, they have a really good kicker.
Who's missed a few extra points recently, but
I agree.
he is excellent though. He is
Yeah,
excellent.
he there was a point earlier in the year where he was just drilling 50 yarders like it was like nothing,
Yep.
and I think that like I really think this is going to be a close game,
Yeah.
and I think the Chargers are ultimately going to win this, but like I think this is going to be a rock fight.
Huh. All right. So you got the
Yeah,
Chargers. I'm actually going to go Chargers too, and
yeah,
the reason being is like I said, I think Harbaugh knows how to play good smash mouth football. They're going to control the clock. And I think they're going to really limit Houston's chances. And when you could put together long drives, being able to run the ball effectively, I think they have a better chance of running the ball against Houston than Houston does against the Chargers defense.
yeah.
So I really like I like the Chargers in this one, which is going to be interesting because the Chargers come in as the 5 seed, and I mean we're going to talk about these other teams in a second, but uh, I see them as the best out of the wild card teams. Personally, I think they're the best out of the wild card teams in the AFC. I know they're the top one, right, with the 5 seed, but I just see them as the most the team that I
Yeah,
feel the best about out of the wild card teams. Uh,
sure.
let's see. All right, so we'll move on. We've got Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Now this is one I feel like we're going to spend some time on because this is I feel like I know exactly how this game's going to go, but I want to hear your thoughts on it first.
Respectfully, this game could end. You could tell me this game could end any way,
Hmm.
and I'd be like, sure, that tracked. You could tell me that like this is going to be another 18-16 game
Hmm.
that Pittsburgh wins.
Oh, that's an
You
ugly score too. But
you could tell that that happened to them earlier this
yeah,
year
yeah,
against
yeah,
Baltimore. You could tell me that Baltimore is going to win 35-10. You could tell me that it's going to be like a 24-21 game that either team wins. I am prepared for any of these outcomes
yeah.
because when these two teams get together, they know each other. Like you're not going to pull any surprises on either of them,
Now,
and they're both really well coached. And both coaches have been with their teams for a very long time.
hmm
I like, yeah, I think Baltimore has the edge, but here's the thing: I don't trust January Lamar. I don't.
ooh,
I don't. Like for all the stats that he put up this regular season, and like respectfully, he's put up better numbers than Josh Allen and should win MVP again. He won't, but I it's cool. But like I don't. I need to see I need to see Lamar Jackson do this in January,
hmm
and he did it a little bit last year in the playoff. But then like AFC title game, they're hosting it at home, and he just fucking sucks. Like he does. Like we watched that game. He was awful.
Yeah,
Like
it's. I mean, yeah, dude, it's. There's a few things that listen. I agree with you, man. Like it just it's brutal to see that in the postseason because we've been through an entire season of him looking great, playing great football, seeing what he's capable of, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, now it's playoff time and we don't get to see that. And that,
I'm not falling for this again. I'll pick Baltimore in this game because I think that like Pittsburgh's in this weird free fall.
yep.
But like I don't feel good about picking Baltimore. Like,
Uh
it's not a lock for me.
So I do for a few reasons, and let me explain the difference. This is basically, I mean, minus a lot of pieces on defense and some of the guys on their offensive line. This is basically the same Baltimore team in terms of identity, all of that stuff as last year. Almost
Yeah.
exactly the same. Lamar has great stats again, blah blah blah, all that BS. The main difference is they've got Derrick Henry now. And now I've seen in the past where it's like, oh yeah, like oh, okay, are they going to keep running the ball with him? And as long as they're able to do that and control the line of scrimmage, I mean, they're going to line their five guys up, put that 300-pound Ricard in the backfield, and just say, go ahead, stop us, try it, go ahead, stop us.
Yeah.
And this is what I wanted to check. I was looking to see not whether there's going to be snow at the game, because it doesn't matter if there's snow in the game, but if it is snowing in Vermont on Saturday, which it is,
Mm-hmm.
Derrick Henry's going to be good. So,
Sure.
I think they're just going to keep handing the ball off to him. I think they're going to crush this clock down, and I don't think Pittsburgh's going to have an answer for it. And I really feel that that's going to be the way it goes. The other thing that I want to say, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm going to push back a little bit. I think if anybody has a defensive line that can kind of match this, though, it's Pittsburgh's.
Yeah, they did earlier in the season, and then they did not the last time they played.
My counter to that again is this was the set. They played 3 games in 11 days.
Yeah, I don't know. And again, it's playoffs. Mike Tomlin, he's a very difficult coach to win a game against.
Yeah.
So we will see. I mean, it's been easier the last month, but maybe that means Pittsburgh's due for a game. I don't know. You like same thing like you were saying before. I could see Baltimore going home this week, and I wouldn't be surprised, man. I wouldn't be surprised. I could also see Pittsburgh getting blown out, and Derrick Henry running for 250 yards on the ground and absolutely crushing them. But this is the thing that I think is going to make a big difference too. Is I think Baltimore is going to sell out to shut down George Pickens, and I think that is going to be the change in the game for them.
Yeah, he's been non-existent for the last month, either with injuries or like when he's played, he just hasn't been good.
But tell me, if you take away George Pickens from the Steelers, how are they going to beat you?
Well, that's the thing is like if Baltimore again, kind of what I said about the Chargers game, if Baltimore is up 14-0 early, I don't know if Pittsburgh has the firepower to like come back from that.
Yeah, I don't think they do. And this
Pittsburgh
is
scoring 20 is hard for them.
well, that's the thing, man. Like you look at it, and this is the crazy part. Like just looking at the division, right? Baltimore put up 518 points this year, a massive total, massive
Which is
total.
insane.
Yeah, it's insane, man, insane. Pittsburgh put up 380 and they won 10 games. Cincinnati won 9 games and they put up 472.
Yeah.
Like it's wild, man. When you look at that, it's just it's crazy. But who knows? Like for me, I'm picking Baltimore because I think they're going to run with Derrick Henry. I think that's what's going to happen, and I feel like Baltimore is on a collision course either with Kansas City or with Buffalo. I feel like that's the way it's going to end up here. I feel like they're going to have to do it that way.
Yeah,
it's just going to go down that way. And if they win and Buffalo wins, well then Baltimore's going to Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
That won't happen. I'm wrong.
No, Kansas City would play the lowest.
Right. So there's really no chance.
Chargers.
Yeah, there's almost no chance the Ravens will see Kansas City until the AFC Championship.
Yeah,
if they're gonna play them. So, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
but I'm picking Baltimore.
Baltimore too. Also, real quick, I love that we have completely flip-flopped on Baltimore, where I rode them so hard. I was like, yeah, you just have to like see it through.
Yeah.
And then I'm sick of Baltimore shit.
Yeah.
They're finally like, Baltimore, man, let me tell you. I just like
dude, we've had 10 years of watching Henry in the cold. Like it just
I just need you to know, like, I need you know how this like this is gonna end, and you're gonna be like, God damn it, why did I back Baltimore? And like, you can come to me and I'm gonna be like, hey man, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there. I'm like, Baltimore, this is the year. It's okay.
Listen, I go back to her because she hits me and I missed it.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, interesting. Well, this game I think is going to be pretty interesting too. Denver at Buffalo. And now with this, like a part of me thinking about this game, I thought, like, is it even realistic to think that Denver could actually win this? But
Denver's
it's actually a pretty good matchup for Denver.
Denver defensively, I think, is going to hang with them.
It really is kind of scary because if Bo Nix shows up in like Baltimore, or I'm sorry, if Bo Nix shows up and plays and Buffalo can't stop him, my goodness, like what's going to happen here? It just we need Josh Allen to be a superhero in this game because this defense is it's a bad matchup for Buffalo. It really is. Not good for them at all. And I know Denver gave up some points over the later half of the season, the last month specifically, but I hope Denver didn't get overconfident last week. I really hope we didn't see like all the juice they've got last week against third stringers from Kansas City because
No,
they're gonna need it this week.
I think Sean Payton's going to have them well coached. And I think that defense is going to keep them in that game longer than I think people think.
Mm-hmm.
I think Buffalo in the end, though, I think Josh Allen, everything that we've always kind of like bitched at him about, where it's like he takes too many sacks, he throws too many picks. He hasn't done that this year. That's not his thing. That is not his thing. And I think this is the best version of Josh Allen you've ever seen. And I think they win this game. I do. When it's all said and done, I think they win this.
I'll tell you, if he loses, which would be bad, right? He still gets to go home to Haley Steinfeld. So
yeah,
I mean,
and to be honest with you, if he loses, like I have a couple Buffalo Bills fans in my life, and
you're gonna text them.
Boy, well, no, I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check them. I'm gonna check in on them. Make sure they're okay.
I'll tell you, I really don't want to see Buffalo lose this game. The thing of it is like if Denver, and I would have liked this matchup a lot better if I mean, it's a good matchup as it is, but I really would have liked this if it was Cincinnati going to Buffalo. And then, like, seeing that, okay, well, all right, now Burrow's got to do it. Can him and Chase get it done against Buffalo? But we're not having that. So, who do you have winning this game?
I have Buffalo. I think when it's all said and done, I think Denver's defense will keep him hanging around for a while. But I think that Josh Allen has just been so good this year.
Yeah. I feel like the train doesn't end here for him. He's still got some time.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think he's going to get it figured out. And I could easily see this. I'm not saying Buffalo's going to win by a lot, but I could see this ending up like a 21-14 or 21-17, and Buffalo ends up winning it.
I'll tell you, Buffalo has a really good home crowd, and that can't be discounted.
What is the over under on the amount of tables being broken this weekend?
Before the game or after the game? It's two different questions.
Both, because there's some that probably are like, listen, our team's not getting it done right now. We need to break a few tables.
Yeah. No, I think it's a lot of tables.
Like, yeah.
No table in the greater Buffalo area is safe.
Yeah. I feel like they must have huge shipments in there. They must just make tables there. They have to.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
All right. So we got a couple more games to go through here. So we've got Green Bay at Philly. It looks like Jordan Love's going to play.
Christian Watson done for the year.
Though. Yeah. I saw that. And I kind of thought too, when I saw him go down, like it didn't look good.
No.
But it's sad because he's just a guy that's just continued to get hammered with injuries. Just, dude, it was the hamstrings. He went to Duke to figure that out. Seems like they got that figured out. And then he was banged up again this year. It's just really, really tough go for him. So sad to see that. But they're going to have to roll with the guys they got with Dobbs and Jayden Reed. Jayden Reed, I felt bad for him. He had that fumble this weekend, and they end up coming back and scoring right after. We're really, really tough. But with this, the question for me is like, can Green Bay slow down Barkley? Because I just see Philly just going up and playing bully ball and being like, we're going to push you around and we're going to bully you.
Jalen Hurts is going to play this game, yeah. Like I kind of need to ask the question, because he's been in concussion protocol for a couple of weeks. Like he's going to play this game, right?
I think so, right? I mean,
I think the thing to watch out for is like if he takes a hit and like he gets shaken up again. Like no offense to Kenny Pickett, but like that game looks a lot different.
yeah, I mean, I I think it looks like he's a go, man. It really
Yeah.
does.
The thing that worries me with Philly a little bit, like, and as somebody that had Jalen Hurts on their fantasy team for a long time this year,
hmm,
there's just a lot. There's too many. You look at halftime and the score 7-3, and Jalen Hurts is like 4 of 11 for like 32 yards, and you're like, okay, like, and that's usually when they lean on Saquon, and like Saquon just turns it on, and like that's fine. Um, the thing that Green Bay does have is Green Bay has a much better coach in Matt LaFleur, a much better coach.
well,
So I think he can like scheme his way around this, and I think this game's gonna be closer than it. Like I don't trust Jordan Love. I want to start there. I don't trust him if he's down 4 with a minute left to drive. I don't trust that he's going to get it done.
yeah, I trust him when I don't want to trust him, right? Or like when I don't expect to, right? Like last
Yeah,
year in the
I trust
playoffs.
him. I trust him when the stakes are low. I don't trust him when the stakes are high.
Yeah, so let me just interject here too. I just want to say, like, because I just looked it up. It looks like he's still listed as questionable. Hurts is. So they're saying there's no new information as of Monday, yesterday. So I don't know, man. Unless something changes drastically, like it seems like he was pretty well banged up, from that concussion. So
Yeah,
there's and that I think changes things. I think it really does. They're
it's
gonna
just something. Yeah, something to look out and think about. Like
like
if
they're
he,
gonna lean on Barkley a lot if that's the case. But
yeah,
I don't know. Is the defense good enough that they can stop Green Bay? The problem is I don't feel like I'm that scared of Green Bay's offense that Philly can't win this game without Jalen Hurts.
I kind of I agree. I agree. Like Green Bay's offense has been so sporadic this year. Like, yeah,
I mean,
it's wild because they've all the games they've lost pretty much besides the Philly one were games in their division. So like,
like this is eerily reminiscent of like how it was last year with Tampa Bay, right? Like not the
I
same
know,
not the
yeah,
same stakes, but I feel like this game could end up with like Philly's just down, they're looking really bad, and then Green Bay runs away with it. Or I could see it as like Philly rallies around Jalen Hurts not being there, and like Jordan Love there's like 2 pick sixes on him in the first quarter, and like the defense is here to play and they set the tone, and it's a long day for him, right? So I just
yeah,
don't know, but I'll tell you, if Philly is able to get if Hertz doesn't go and Kenny Pickett gets a few touchdowns under his belt, they are going to ride Barkley the rest of the game, man.
yeah.
They will.
I think what worries me with Jalen Hurts is like I assume that he's gonna play, but like he takes one hit and like it's then it gets kind of dicey, and you're like, okay, like
Do you
I
think
don't
it's
know. Like,
strategy now?
what's that?
Do you think it's strategy now too, where Sirianni's not saying anything about it?
Um, I think there are like some rules against that because you have to be kind of honest with the injury report. But like
Hmm.
I, I'm just worried. I'm just worried that Hurts is gonna like start that game and it's gonna be a slow start. He hasn't played in like 2.5 weeks.
Hmm.
So yeah, who's to say? Like,
Which rust matters. It does. Who do
and
you?
Philly rested all their guys last week.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
They didn't,
Um,
yeah. So
who do you have winning this game?
I think it's Philly. But it's the one game where I don't feel good about picking them.
Okay. So
Yeah.
far, we have been matching picks all the way through. So I'm hoping it doesn't go that way going forward, but we will see. We might. We might. So,
I
and then
think
we'll
you and
wear
I are
the
gonna look at you and I are gonna look at this next game very differently, I think,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
I have a suspicion on who you're gonna pick, and
Yeah. I don't think
yeah.
you do. I don't think you do. But
Okay.
all right. So let's dive into it, right? Washington at Tampa Bay. Um, I'll let you give your wrong picks first. Or
Sure. I think this is I texted you this earlier,
Mhm.
like when the matchups came out. This is a game I'm so excited for. I like that it's the Sunday night 8 p.m. matchup or 7 p.m. matchup.
Mhm.
I'm really jazzed about this. I I'm gonna say a thing. Tampa's defense is pretty suspect. And I Baker has thrown a lot of picks this year. Like he tied the league lead with Kirk Cousins in interceptions.
Mhm. Your guy, right?
Yeah. And I think this is a game that Washington wins. I do. I I'm gonna say it. I think this is a game that Washington goes in there, and because they're young and naive and they don't know any better, I don't think the pressure is gonna get to them. I think this is a game like Jaden Daniels, like when it's working, the guy runs it, he throws it, like yeah, I think this is a game that Washington wins.
Okay.
Yep.
Um, let me just ask you something because
Sure.
I gotta know this just for my own understanding.
Mhm.
What is it that you like so much about Washington?
I just think what they do offensively is really good. I think that like with Jaden Daniels, you can't you okay, cool. Like you're gonna sit back and like just rush four and drop seven. Cool. Jaden Daniels, A, will either pick you apart, or B, he's fast enough that like it doesn't matter. If you're gonna just play zone against him all game, cool. He's gonna run for 120 yards. Uh I think that they're better coached. I think that they Washington has won real games this year that have like were tough. And like Tampa, I didn't love for a must-win game last week for Tampa. They fucked around with New Orleans much longer than they should have. And that was kind of concerning to me because New Orleans is a dumpster fire and they should have taken care of business handily. And they didn't.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I think this is a game that Washington wins. I think it's close. I think but I think that Baker's just gonna throw a couple picks that are gonna be costly. That's kind of been his thing all year. He's been great for Tampa, but he also throws a lot of picks.
Hmm.
So
So I'm just gonna make a counter argument, and I needed to look it up before I
sure.
was really coming at you with it. But listen, you know me, I've been on Washington's on their list this year. Like I've been
Yeah.
a Jaden Daniels supporter. It's funny that we're flip flopping at this point, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
But you love Baker, and I know this. And
listen,
I know this. And I
yeah,
love Baker too.
yeah. So listen, I really like Jaden Daniels. I like what he's done this year. There's two things that I kind of have that are going against Washington right now that I
Sure.
feel. The first is that he's a rookie quarterback, and yeah, he is older and he's played better than the other rookie quarterbacks this year. However,
Mhm.
um, the playoffs is a different thing, a different beast. And
Sure.
there's some
Yep.
guys on that roster that have been to the playoffs before. Some guys haven't been. But this is the way I'm seeing things recently. And especially the last few weeks. Now, I know he didn't play much last week and stuff, but a lot of the starters on defense did. And so when I look
Yeah.
at some of what they were able to do against a Dallas team that really had, I'm sorry, against the Saints, right? So they end up barely winning this game, and that was kind of a. I'm on the wrong one. With Dallas, they end up beating Dallas, right? By just a few points
Yep.
and stuff. I understand they put up 13 points in the fourth quarter, all of this stuff, but they gave up 150 yards on the ground. Previous week against Atlanta, 126 yards on the ground.
Oh,
Previous
yeah, no, I know that Washington's defense is suspect. I am
That's
aware.
my biggest concern because Tampa Bay recently had, with the emergence of Bucky Irving, have just been absolutely, he's been killing it for
Yeah.
them. He's going to be their starting running back next year. We know that. He's a very big playmaker for that team. That offensive line has played very, very well together. Yes, Baker's made some uh, suspect decisions, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But I do really like Tampa Bay's chances in this game. And not to mention, dude, like they're playing at home. Like
Sure.
it's really tough to go on the road and play a team on the road, let alone in the playoffs. So I have to side with Tampa Bay in this. And not because I'm like, oh yeah, Baker's not gonna mess up. He's not going to screw this up. But I've seen too many times over the second half of the season, the Commanders allow teams back into games where I didn't think they were going to be there. And
Yeah.
I don't have full confidence that like, hey, they're going to go in there and be able to get business done and shut out the Bucks and be able to secure a win. And I also think like, yeah, the fact that they didn't play well against New Orleans, I get that piece. Like you need some adversity throughout the season to be able to get there. It doesn't matter if it happens in week 1 or week 18. You got to go through it at some point. But
Right.
I man, you give me one game with Baker at home and a rookie quarterback coming in, I gotta go the Bucks, man. I got to. I gotta take them.
Here, so my counter to is like both defenses are a wash. Both defenses are kind of a mess.
Yep.
I get that. Baker just kind of like throws a lot more picks than Jaden Daniels does,
Yeah, he
and
does.
I think that that's where I kind of am like, I think Baker's a better quarterback. I think this year though, like Baker's thrown a lot of picks, and like that, like
Two
you,
two things
yeah,
I'll agree with you on with that. First of all, you're right. You're right. Baker does throw more picks. He's a little more, I wouldn't say careless with the ball, but aggressive trying to place the ball. Whereas
oh, he's
Jaden,
a gunslinger.
yeah,
He is the definition of a gunslinger.
yeah, Jaden Daniels is more conservative with that, but I will say that his elusivity is much different than Baker's too.
Absolutely.
Where all of a sudden the pocket breaks down and it's like, dude, he just walked into the end zone. No one could even catch him. Like he just trotted at a distance that no one was going to catch him. And they end
Yeah.
up doing that. So maybe that's the case. Maybe he does a very good job. He's not your typical rookie. And to be honest, when you see a guy like Jaden Daniels, who I know, I really didn't think he was going to come into the league and turn the ball over as little as he has this year. I thought there was going to be a lot more with that, a lot more
Me
growing
too.
pains. But he's making the rest of the rookie quarterbacks, not so much Caleb Williams and Bo Nix and those guys, but I'm saying like the guys that came the year before, right? Like the
Yeah.
Bryce Youngs, the Anthony Richardsons, they don't look as good as he does. They just don't.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny to see. So, you know what? If he ends up getting his win, I'm not going to feel bad about it and be like, oh man, I can't believe I didn't pick right on that. I'll be happy whichever team wins this game. I will be happy for that team. I
Yeah.
really will.
Yeah.
And
Well, these are both teams I want to see succeed. So
yeah,
like,
yeah. And
yeah.
what could be better than what Washington's been through the last like 10 years than to see them win a playoff game, possibly get some juice going into next season, and then like really make a run. You know, like
Yeah.
I would love to see that and keep Dallas beat down. I would love that. I would love
Yeah.
that. So, oh man. So yeah, you're going Washington, right?
I am. Yeah. I
I'll
think it's gonna be close. I
yeah.
think it's gonna come down to the wire. But yeah, I have Washington.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I am gonna go Tampa Bay, but that's okay. We got to split at one point. We can,
Sure.
otherwise the fans think we're in on it together. So,
Hmm.
um, all right. By the way, I don't know if I told you this before, but like I do a whole kind of pick 'em for myself.
Yeah.
I don't gamble it, but I every week I go in like I look at the matchups and I'm like, okay, like let me pick the winner and loser for each one. I don't
Hmm.
care about spreads. I don't care about any of that stuff. I go through and I'm like, okay, it's a feel. Like what team is playing better right now? What team's gonna lose? Well, dude, I at one point I was like around 64, 65% picking. And then the
Yeah.
later half of the season, I had like 8 missed picks in the final 5 weeks,
Damn.
which I just went on a tear, dude. And I
Damn.
almost finished at 70% for the season. It was crazy. So
Shit.
yeah,
Well
I felt
done, sir.
real good about that. But not to say that we're picking right in the playoffs because that's completely different. But
True.
All right, next game, Minnesota at the Rams. And we'll touch on this one, and then we can touch on the bye teams real quick, and
Yeah.
then we'll wrap up here. But Minnesota, the worst wild card team, has to go out to Los Angeles. And
Yeah.
it's just kind of ironic, right? A 14-3 team going on the road in the playoffs just sounds crazy. Like, I know
Yeah.
someone's going to make a push like, oh, they need to redo the playoff system. It should be the teams with
Win the
the
division. You know what? If you want it so badly, win the division.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree.
Yep.
That's
That's why we have divisions.
yep,
Win the
that's
division.
exactly it. So impressive, absolutely, absolutely
Yep.
impressive. I really like this team. I think they're awesome to watch. They've figured it out this year with Sam Darnold, and I really like that. Didn't looked like they got a bit exposed, or just very very rattled in
I
that
think it was
game
a bad
against.
game. I think it was just a bad. I think
Yeah.
they were rattled a little bit,
Hmm.
but I think it was just a straight up bad game they played. I think Aaron Glenn had such a good scheme defensively.
Hmm.
Like every time you thought he was going to go zone with zone, like playing zone coverage, he was playing man.
Bro,
And like, and Detroit was just murdering him on defense.
No one plays man against Justin Jefferson. Nobody. It
Nope,
was
and they did it.
crazy. Yeah, it was
They did it,
crazy. So, yeah,
and they're
man.
physical too. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like they were out. Minnesota got manhandled.
Yeah, they did. They did. And Sam Darnold only missed on a few throws by just a little bit. There was one bad read that he had where I think he tried to force it to Addison over the top where really he could have he could have hit Jefferson on what looked like to be a wheel route or kind of like an out route, and he would have walked in for a touchdown. He had another one where he kind of overthrew him to the right. It just I don't know, man. Like it's too bad. Hopefully they get it figured out. What do you see being the big thing in this game? Because McVay, by the way, this is no easy walk-in team that they're going to play against. Like Matt Stafford's been to the playoffs before.
Yeah.
He knows what it takes to win a playoff game. Some of these guys, yeah, Cooper Kupp hasn't had the best season. Nakua, he was injured for a lot of the season. Kyron Williams is a dude. Like this defense, you got to believe that some of these guys, it's their first playoff that they're going to be experiencing on defense. Like they're hungry, dude. They want to play.
Yeah.
So I got to believe that like the Rams are going to be up for this game.
I agree. I think Minnesota has too many weapons though, and right now the Rams are having a hard time scoring, and I feel like I'm kind of like a broken record here, but like Minnesota could jump out to like a 14 or 17 nothing lead early, and you quickly are like, I don't know how the Rams are getting these points.
Yeah, I could also see Minnesota jumping out to like a 21-3 lead, and then all of a sudden the Rams scored 3 touchdowns and they're back in it.
Minnesota's played a lot of close games this year, but like that's kind of misleading because if you look at a lot of those games, they're up 21 or 24 points, and they're like, well, we're just kind of gotta play zone and like play soft and like, yeah,
You're right.
So they kind of like they don't let teams. A lot of their games look like they're close scores, but they're not.
Yeah,
like they're just like, yeah. So I feel like this is. I'm not gonna say this is an easy game for Minnesota, but like, I think Minnesota's gonna be all right and win this game.
Yeah, Minnesota should win this game, and I hope this isn't the end of the Minnesota season because anything can happen.
Me
right?
too.
I really hope, and there's always going to be that one upset on the weekend. I really hope this is not it, because I do not want to see Minnesota go down this way. I'd love to see them get another opportunity at Detroit. I don't know if they're going to win that game, but I'd love to see them get another opportunity at Detroit. To at least be able to say, like, listen, we went at them. We gave them our best chance 3 times this year, and we couldn't beat them. But I'd rather them be able to hang their hat on that and try to say that. So you're rolling with Minnesota.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So the 2 teams that get the bye, right? And like we don't have to spend a long time on them because we'll be covering them next week and stuff. But we got Detroit and Kansas City. I'm curious. Like, let's go Kansas City first. How are you feeling about them?
This is a year where both. I'm going to say this. I'm going to lump both these teams together with Kansas City and Detroit, teams that desperately needed the bye,
Yeah.
desperately needed it. Like, and I think this couldn't like respectfully. These are two teams that play really well at home,
Yep.
and I think that I think this is good for both of them. I think they need the rest. I think they need to get things that worry me. There are things that worry me with both one seeds because there are years where the one seeds are like, man, they are dominant one seeds.
Yeah.
Detroit is pretty dominant, and like Kansas City for going 15-2. Like there's some real question marks with them.
I know. Isn't that the crazy
But
part?
the thing is, like in 2 weeks, they're the champs, so I'm not going to pick against them because they're
Yeah.
the champs.
Yeah.
And until you beat the champs, yep. And the thing is like Kansas City's going to make it hard for them people because like you have to go into Arrowhead in January and you have to go beat them, which is something that hasn't been done in a long time.
Yeah. In
There
a
are two
very long
quarterbacks that have
time.
done it since Mahomes has been the starter. It's Joe Burrow and Tom Brady.
Yeah.
That's it.
And
That's the list.
neither of them are in the playoffs this year.
Nope.
So
Nope. So that's the level of talent you need to beat Mahomes in Kansas City in the playoffs.
yeah, one
Good
guy
luck.
almost did, except for 15 seconds.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yeah. So respectfully, good luck. And then with Detroit, boy, they just Detroit that game. That game at halftime, I was like, man, Minnesota's kind of hanging around here.
yeah.
Okay. And then Detroit, the second half was like, nope, we're putting an end to this. And they did whatever they wanted to on offense, and they're clicking on offense, man.
Yeah, they really
And
are.
I guess they're going to get Montgomery back probably for round two.
Which
Uh,
is insane to think, right?
I'm a little worried about that, honestly. But hey, if he says he feels good, he feels good. So
Yeah. I mean, he's an awesome part of that team.
respectfully, their offense hasn't really lacked since Montgomery's been gone. In fact, they've kind of gotten better.
Yeah, they just so Gibbs is an absolute ridiculous playmaker, but I think what it allows them to do is be able to use Gibbs a little bit less, and
Yeah.
he doesn't have to be that grounded pound between the tackles where Montgomery can be that dude. And they missed it a little bit in some of those games if you saw where they weren't able to punch it in on the goal line.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't matter if it's outside the 10, Gibbs is gonna run it in. Like it's crazy.
Thing that kind of worries me just a smidge. It's
Mhm.
it's not a big worry. Like the defense is a worry for me because they're so banged up.
Yeah.
But Jared Goff sometimes like throws like a weird pick, and you're like, he did it in the Minnesota game.
Yeah, he
Where,
had
like
two of them, dude.
the one where he launched it downfield and overthrew his guy by like 10 yards, and it was such an easy pick. You're like, what are you doing, guy? Like,
Yeah. He's feeling
so
himself. Too good.
that worries me a smidge.
Yeah.
But I think that like Dan Campbell has his team believing in themselves in a way that like not a lot of teams are. And respectfully, Detroit has a thing where they have unfinished business.
Yeah, I must say because and we've seen this narrative a few times in the NFL where like a team gets very close one year, like San Francisco in the Super Bowl last year, they were seconds away from winning and now they didn't even make the playoffs this year, right? And it's
Yeah,
very difficult to get back to the mountaintop. Detroit has done that, man. They
and
they
it's
have figured it out, man. They
yeah,
have. So good for them.
and games they needed to get up for like that San Francisco game. They didn't need to win that game,
No.
but that game was a game they had circled on their calendar,
Yep.
and they got up for it, and they did what they had to do to win and put up points. And I just they're gonna find a way to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
And offensively, they're a tough team to stop.
Yeah, they really are. And especially if they're going to be cruising with hey, we're going to run it on fourth or go for it on fourth down every single time. Like they're a very behind that offensive line, they are a very difficult team to stop 4 downs in a row.
One of the Jameer Gibbs touchdowns that he ran in, what you see is Penny Sewell coming flying in for that second push, and you're like, cool. How do you stop that?
Yeah, he's
How do you stop
he's
that? You
he's
don't.
so
Like,
good, man. He is so good. It's
yep.
crazy. Oh man. So yeah, we covered Detroit and Kansas City. Anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap up here?
No, I'm just excited for a weekend of playoff football, man.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It should be a lot of fun. I know I'll be texting you a
Yeah.
bit and stuff, and we will be
Yep.
back next week to cover not only those games but some of the new matchups that we're gonna
Yeah.
have going forward. So, uh, yeah, without further
Real quick, you
ado,
know what makes me
yeah,
I love about the playoffs, but makes me a little sad?
what?
What makes me a little sad is like I know we're coming towards the end of the season.
Yes, me
Like,
too. Me too. It's a
and
very
like kind of I
difficult
keep
thing.
that in the back of my brain a little bit where I'm like, this is awesome, but like this means our we the Sundays are limited.
Yeah, by this time, like what, a month from now, a little more than a
Yep.
month from now, it's over.
Yeah, we got a month left and that's it.
It's tough, but
So
that means baseball is right around the corner for you. So,
amen.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh man. Well, listen, it was a good one today. We will be
Yeah.
back next week bringing you guys some more. But yeah, without further ado, man, we can wrap up for today.
All right, man.
All
All
right.
right. I love you.
Love you, brother.
Peace.
Peace.